This video will show how to set up line type scale in CAD drawing. There's always a lot of confusion with line type scale and setting it up and maintaining it. Part of that reason is in CAD, AutoCAD, and IntelliCAD, they are variables that you set that control how the drawing is processed. If those variables are not set up correctly, you will not be able to print drawings that look correct. For example, the drawing shown here has this hidden line where there's a pattern in the, applied to the line. That would disappear. You would have all continuous lines when the variables are not set up correctly. You control variable values by entering the variable name in your command window. So the first one of those that I want to enter is scale list edit. And note that this is specific just to this drawing file. It's not across any other file. When I type scale list edit, I see the available scales that I can use on the project. So let's add one. Let's add 1 inch equals 30. Click the add button, and then just write out 1 inch equals 30 feet. And then set the drawing unit to 30. And now I have an option to use a 1 inch equals 30 scale. Most likely when you open this up, there'll be about 30 architectural scales and no civil scales. It just varies. You always have to check. So once you've got all the scales you think you're going to use in a project, I typically just have all of them up to about 1 inch equals 500. But for this, let's say we're going to do everything at 1 inch equals 30. To show what 1 inch equals 30 will look like, I have to set MS LT scale to 1. So if I type it in the command window, MS LT scale, and then enter 1. Basically in CAD, 1 means on, 0 means off. So we turned on MS LT scale. What MSLT scale does is it tells AutoCAD that the way to set the appearance of lines, the spacing, is through the annotation scales. So once you type MSLT scale, set that to 1. Down at the bottom, it's kind of hard to see here. There's an annotation. All those annotation scales you set up will be there. So with MSLT scale set to 1, if I select 1 inch equals 30, all the line scale will change to where when I plot this, so let's show that. If I type plot out of model space, and I set this to 1 inch equals 30, the spacing is going to be correct. We don't tend to plot much out of model space. It's more of a surveyor thing. So just showing that if you're plotting out of model space, you're setting the scale here when you plot. The only thing that MSLT scale does is change the way it looks while you're working on it in model space. I prefer that my drawings look like they're going to look when they print when I'm working in model space, instead of them looking like this, where everything's a solid line. So if I go back and I change this scale back to 30, it goes back to the way it's supposed to look. A lot of times you have to type regen, R-E-G-N, in between these changes for it to take effect, but it seems to be changing here. One variable I do need to talk about is LT scale. Just set LT scale to 1. If you have any questions, contact me. Just always set LT scale to 1, and all of the other settings work. If I change this, say, to LT scale to 10, it messes up the line work. So leave that on 1. And that's pretty much it for model space. If you know your sheets are set up to 50, you probably just want to go ahead and set that to 50. Anything but 1-to-1. So when we print out of paper space. And paper space are these tabs that take a screenshot of our model space and combines that with a title block. And these windows into our drawing are called viewports. And the viewport controls the way the line types look and print out of paper space. In paper space is both. In model space, it only controls the way it looks. So if we come over here, let's unlock this viewport. And I just selected it. You'll see here annotation scale, standard scale. Let's say I want this to be 30 instead of 50. Again, the same scales we set up in the beginning, the annotation scales are there. If I set up the annotation scale of 1 inch equals 30, it automatically changed to standard scale. Typically, I set up my windows here, and the annotation will change to standard scale. So the quickest way is just change annotation scale, and the other scale will follow. But for this process to work, you got to make sure that your variables are correct. So in your paper space tab, type this command, PSLT scale, and again, turn that on, set it to 1. And by doing that, it controls the line spacing or scale with our annotation list, instead of it just using another method. I'm not even sure how it would even work, not setting it this way. And this is a pretty common issue for the type of work we do, because we tend to start off on single sheet projects working in model space, and it doesn't really click how an annotation scale would work. But as long as you set it up this way, it will work correctly. I think what happens is people will get a survey and the existing contours won't look correct. So they'll start changing things. So if I change LT scale, set it to 0.5, that changes everything, but we want LT scale set to 1. Let me set this up the way, so most of the time MSLT scale is turned off. So when you get to drawing, it looks like all of these are continuous lines because the MSLT scale is turned off. And at that point, people start changing either the scale of the actual entity. So if you select an entity, You can change the scale, increase it. That fixed the issue for that one line. But all the other lines are messed up. So just to run back through this one last time, MS-LT scale, set to 1. This will control how it appears in model space. Your scales are entered by scale list edit here, and you set them down at the bottom of the bar here so that they show how it's going to look when it's plotted. A lot of times it's set to 1 to 1, it's just going to look like that. Then in Paperspace, check PS-LT scale is set to 1. Keep in mind that you can have a PS-LT scale on one tab set to, say, turned off, and then on another tab, PS-LT scale is on. You have to set it on each tab, so each one of these. Then when you set up your viewports, just come here and select your annotation scale and make sure these match. And do a regen. And that will plot correct. One thing, looking at old drawings, this is Civil 3D drawing. When you select the Civil 3D contours, it grabs the surface. And surfaces display based on their styles. And I've noticed in a lot of drawings, if you edit that style, the major and minor contours are set to 10. And I think this was just to make them look hidden in model space. But we don't have to do that. If you open one up and everything is displaying correct except for your contours, check the style on that surface. Surfaces and all that, we'll talk about that in the future. But if someone says, please print these plans for me, or any just basic opening it up, the CAD file, and being able to do anything with it, set it up the way we showed. MS scale 1, LT scale 1, PS-LT scale 1, and then all of your actual drawing scales is in the scale list edit. Thanks.